So it's been a while since I did one of these types of videos where I show you essentially tricks that you can use in order to get better at the game. So let's get started with thing number one. So we're in the corner and we have our opponent dealing with our corner pressure, and they decide to hold up on a situation, right? We're bullying them and then bam, they jump at us, and a lot of the time what I end up seeing is people either tapping parry on the situation, hoping that they fall down with a button and then they can hopefully get away with something, or in some cases they literally just do this and then they block out the situation and force themselves into a guess, right? In these situations, I want you guys to do better. So what can we do? We can practice the art of anti-airing. Okay, so what we're gonna do is that we're going to recognize the fact that they went for a neutral jump, and what we're doing is that we're pressing forward grab. So while we're pressing forward grab, we're also simultaneously buffering in forward grab. So what we can do is that after we press forward grab, we recognize he jumped, and then we can just put a subsequent cohorted circle in and get the rest of it as well. So it makes it super easy in order to get the anti-air and keep them in the exact same position. Now, some of your opponents are going to do a little bit more. Some of your opponents are going to decide to try and forward jump out the corner, like the smart individuals that they are, right? So in this case, we're going to have to learn how to crosscut. Now, crosscut is a little bit difficult at first, but once you get it down, it's easy, okay? So we're going to do the exact same situation. But what we're gonna do is that when we hold our forward, the same thing we did the first time, we're just gonna press down back into a hold down back input. Okay, so it sounds complicated, but truly it's very simple, right? What we're doing is, if you look at my inputs here, you're pressing forward grab. After the forward grab, we're going into down back. What happens is that it registers when you cross over, it registers as a forward input already. So then all you have to put in is the subsequent down forward, which helps quite a bit, especially when you're in these types of situations. So what we need to practice now is if they decide to go for vertical jump versus forward jump. So in these situations, we go for this, we recognize it's a forward jump, and we go for the quarter circle forward. Right? If they go for the neutral jump, we're also ready for that as well. Just being able to recognize this and go for an anti-air will give you immense value, especially because the moment you hit this, you'll be able to follow it up with pressure. And we love pressure out here, because the moment they have to block a situation, you know they crumble. So this is tip number one. This is something that I suggest everyone practice, just because it helps immensely with going for your corner pressure, and then you can mix them up with lows, with highs, with whatever you want, right? And then you put them into a situation, and then GG's, shake my hand, that sort of thing, right? So that's tip number one. Tip number two is when you're in a situation where you have to block. You have to block, right? So in the case where someone, say, goes for throw pressure and then they kind of mess it up, whatever they do. Let's suppose we're gonna give you a very realistic scenario, right? Where like they press it a little bit slow. So when you find yourselves in this situation where they're going for this sort of string, right? Some people might be inclined to go for something like that, right? Where they go for the crouch jab into DP or into like Tatsu, right? Whatever option you want to go for. What I am suggesting to you is that when you go for a situation where you commit to mash, commit to your mash wholly. What does that mean is that because if we're correct, we're going to get a route off of it. Commit to the medium, because off of a counter hit, we get the crouching light punch into crouching medium punch. In these cases, we can get more damage, more bang for our buck than going for like the crouch jab confirm or any sort of other confirm, right? you get a lot more bang for your buck. That's why you see a lot of them go for an option like this, just because it gives you so much value. So in these cases, be a little bit more bold, right? Choose an option that will net you more reward. So we are here at tip number 3, and y'all are struggling to hit the shimmy. A lot of people think throw is all there is and whatever have you. You need to be prepared for a little bit more. So in these cases, when the opponent blocks, we're going to set them to try and tech. We're going to set them to a delay of 2 frames because that is a delayed tech. If you don't know what delayed tech is, essentially it allows you to block a plethora of situations all at once. But the thing is that it opens you up to the shimmy, right? So when you're doing your shimmy, a lot of people end up doing the shimmy and waiting for like an EXDP and just not pressing anything afterwards. Ideally, when you do your shimmy, don't walk really far back, keep looking for a button. Don't do that. How you're going to do it is you're going to slightly walk back into a normal the moment you see something. But the key is to notice that you've seen something. Another thing that I see a lot is that like people will do something like this. This is a very bad decision. Why? Because you've already did low forward drive rush, right? That's already 3. Then you're going to spend another in order to get the combo. Instead, change your route to reflect how much drive gauge you have. If you don't have a lot, don't spend a lot, right? Find a route that's going to be perfect for the situation. Right? That's how you're going to find a lot more value. So the same thing will go with my next tip, but I'm not going to spoil that just yet. But let's go back into this. When you're walking back, I want you to walk back with purpose. A lot of people don't walk back with purpose. They walk back because they see people walk back. The same thing that people do with the wiggle step in neutral like this. When you walk back here, look for the normal. You see how far I don't even need to walk that far back. I don't have to walk that far back. This is as far as I need to go in order to catch it. So you can even go so far as this. Walk back into crouch block so that if they go for a normal immediately afterwards, you're ready to block. These are the types of things I want you to start doing because this gives you immense value. Even if you want to go for something like this, this is a route as well, right? Obviously, we can get a little bit more out of the situation, but that is the sort of thing I want you to keep more in mind. So you're in neutral, you're throwing your fireballs, you're having a grand old time, but you're finding, number one, they have the health lead over you and they're just simply parrying out the situation, right? What can we do to, number one, help in neutral, and number two, get close to our opponent? What we need to start utilizing, I know it's a weird thing to say, raw drive rush. A lot of you guys don't use raw drive rush. They feel like you need to be doing this the entire time, but you don't know why you're doing this. A lot of players do this so often, it's criminal. They walk around like this, they're not reacting to anything, and they're just doing this the entire time. Instead, okay, use your fireball, use your options to get in. That's how we're going to circumvent neutral a little bit. People don't use this raw drive rush option. Then on top of which, it goes back to my same last tip where I talked about the shimmy. Now you can basically get the shimmy situation, but for a lot less meter, right? And now we're able to go for an option like drive rush because we haven't spent all the meter. That it opens up, because we haven't spent all the meter, it now opens up our ability to drive rush cancel off of that normal that when we did go for the shimmy. On top of which, it enables the whole guest situation in general. So it's very handy for you to use. Please guys, utilize raw drive rush more in your gameplay. I'm not saying every single time you have the opportunity to drive rush at your opponent. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying on top of using this, on top of using your jumps, on top of using your normals, on top of using all of these things, that's how you're going to develop your neutral. You sprinkle this in, right? You sprinkle this in, right? You use your normals, you whiff punish, you use everything that you have available to you, because that is how you create a mental stack. So here's the last thing, and this is something that a lot of people need to practice, okay? I was coaching somebody and they were trying to practice this, and I want to put this in video format. So last thing here is called the Parry OS. What is the Parry OS? Right? So essentially what we're doing is that we're tapping parry on the situation and buffering in a forward dash. Why? Because what happens is if you're successful on the perfect parry, then you get a drive rush. If you are unsuccessful, you stay in place. And in cases like that, if you are successful on it, you can potentially get an actual punish. So as you notice, I'm staying in place when I'm unsuccessful, but the moment I'm successful on it, I get the drive rush. Granted, this combo will always be scaled. This is something you need to keep in mind when you're going for it. You'll always be scaled because it still counts as a perfect parry attempt. However, in certain cases, against certain characters, you can actually get a punish. And let's say we don't actually get the punish off of the instance. At the very least, it's still a raw drive rush that will put you in the situation that I've talked about before. This is how you're going to get better at neutral. Because if you're able to shut down and make them afraid to go for certain options because they feel like they're going to get hit if they keep trying to shoot fireball, it's a very important option to have in your arsenal. Because now your opponent's like, oh shoot, if I keep trying to shoot fireball, he might perfect parry and run in on me. I don't want to give him that opportunity, right? And then we're now forced to once again play a little bit more neutral with a little bit less fireball, because now at the drop of a hat, we can potentially get a perfect parry situation and get punished for it. Now, with that said, I hope these 5 tips help you improve in Street Fighter 6. If you would like to receive coaching, drop your CFN down below. And with that said, any questions?